Welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, October 9th, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from the state of Georgia, someone who has been a longtime advocate for the President of the United States, and Republican politics in Washington, D.C. has now started to find herself turning on the party as well as the President of the United States on a variety of different issues. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who today went to CNN and complained and called out her Republican colleagues for the government shutdown, detailing that it is Republicans, in fact, who have control of the White House, the Senate, and everything, really, the White House, Senate, House of Representatives, and the Supreme Court, that this government shutdown just simply should not be happening under Republican control if they are the ones who have been in power, and it isn't really Democrats who have the ability to obstruct all of this from happening. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been someone who I think many people on the left and the right see in close association with the President of the United States, and arguably for right reason. She was elected into Congress as someone who made a big name for herself by being as outspoken in favor of Donald Trump and refusing to acknowledge any of the criticisms that the president has seen thrown his way until she starts to make them herself. Now, there has been this really big panic in Trump world around Marjorie Taylor Greene as someone who has been a huge advocate for the president and also has been in this position where, there are people worried that she might be pushing back away from Donald Trump and the Republican Party as she finds herself disillusioned with her party. Now, this actually started months ago when Marjorie Taylor Greene toyed with the idea that she would run for Senate in the state of Georgia, then decided that she would run for governor in the state. But then Donald Trump called her, and the Trump allies around her said that you're going to lose, and ultimately said that you need to not run because you are going to doom our chances in Georgia in 2026. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene herself has publicly said that she does not believe that she would lose any election to Jon Ossoff or any Republican in the governor's race or any Democrat for that matter in the general election. Marjorie Taylor Greene is adamant that she believes she would win whatever election she ran for statewide in Georgia. And while I vehemently disagree, and evidently so does the President of the United States, that seemed to be the beginning of a major rift between her and her party and the White House as they started to see a change in behavior in this state, thinking about change in behavior with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the way that she viewed the President of the United States and her Republican colleagues as, again, they were part of this entire orchestrated process to get her to not run for higher office. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, is also noteworthy because of the fact that in being so staunch of a supporter for the president, she's often found herself alone in the House Freedom Caucus, alone on the Republican side in her advocacy for Donald Trump that seems to have met no end, but simply doesn't seem to be reciprocated by the president. Because if it was, he has propped up losing candidates before in Georgia, she would have easily won that Trump endorsement and been the frontrunner on the Republican side for whatever office she should seek in this state in 2026, but that evidently was not the case. She decided that she was going to stay in the House of Representatives and does publicly deny that Donald Trump even spoke to her about the race, but allies close to the president have already leaked to the press that he did show Marjorie Taylor Greene a poll, probably done by one of his own internal groups, maybe Fabrizio and Ward, whoever it is, went to her and said that this poll shows that you are in fact going to lose. And since then, like I said, their relationship has been rocky, and it has been interesting to see that Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the 4 Republicans who are joining the Democrats on signing the discharge petition in the House of Representatives to release the Epstein files. Her, Lauren Boebert, some other Republicans across the country have aligned with the Democrats on this issue, which I think that for the majority of this nation is largely bipartisan. But the White House had said to every Republican in Congress, if you are to sign the discharge petition, it will be seen as an act of aggression against the White House. So, even with that, threat looming over her head, she still signs the discharge petition and she pushes back against the White House even today, publicly saying there's no reason for Mike Johnson or the Republicans to push back against the releasing of these files, that they should seat Adelita Grijalva, who we talked about in a video just 2 days ago, after Republicans refused and continued to refuse to seat her in Congress out of fear of reaching that 218 number that would force the releasing of the files. Marjorie Taylor Greene, surprisingly enough, And not to say she's at all left-wing now or on the side of liberalism, but certainly finds herself aligning with Democrats on some issues that almost every other Republican has found themselves far distanced away from the Democratic side of Washington, D.C. on issues that seemingly are very important to herself. And so we'll see exactly how this relationship unfolds and shakes up between the president as someone like her who has been very, very loyal to Donald J. Trump and has not received that loyalty in response. And this is not the first time, right? Donald Trump has called up someone and said, you should not run. He did it to Zach Nunn in the state of Iowa. Zach Nunn wanted to run for governor in the state, was about to set an announcement, but he comes from a swing district. And Donald Trump called him and said, absolutely not. We need you to stay in the House because if you aren't, Democrats are probably going to win your district. It's difficult for Republicans to really reconcile that. Anyone to be called by, your party's leader to say, you should not run for this higher office that you clearly have been gunning for quite some time. But obviously, you listen, because Donald Trump all but threatened him in this race to say if he was deciding to run for governor anyway, he would ensure that not only would he not win the governorship, but he wouldn't even have time to go back to the House and run for that office there. So in Iowa, Zach Nunn is staying in the House. And it's happened more than this, right? Across the country, Donald Trump has tried to make it so more electable Republicans are getting in their positions, which explains why he's fearful of Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she is extreme, because she is taking on extremely provocative stances, ones that I think would doom anyone in a competitive state. But she's fine in her safe district. Another reason why she even has the ability to call out Donald Trump and Republicans nationwide. She's saying that voters, too, have healthcare costs that they need to worry about, that it is wrong for the Republicans to hold this hostage over the American public and Democrats to enforce this government shutdown. And she doesn't even come from a swing district. I mean, that's the reason why she's so safe, which is that in 2024, she won by 29 points. This is a district that was drawn to be safe and solid for Marjorie Taylor Greene, even if hell freezes over, that Georgia's 14th district will still vote red. And so that's the problem here for Marjorie Taylor Greene, rather for the Republicans who seek to say that Marjorie Taylor Greene in this defection deserves that she might lose the next election because she's not going to lose it in the general. She's certainly not going to lose it in the primary. Republicans have tried before in 2022. We'll see here that in the primary, other candidates ran against her. She got 70% of the vote. Doesn't seem all that impressive, but considering that she's someone who has been very publicly viewed as more extreme and outlandish, in her time in Washington, D.C., she finds herself still very popular in the district, and that voters are loyal to her and will continue to be so even as she finds herself defecting from Republicans on issues like Epstein, like healthcare, like the government shutdown, and whatever else we've seen, what we will see in the coming months and days, because it will be more. It will be more coming from someone who has been, as NBC News describes, once a loyal foot soldier for Trump. But now she is, in fact, increasingly bucking her party. And whether or not this is something that continues through the midterms, continues into maybe a position where she says, not only am I not running for Senate or governor, but I'm leaving Washington, D.C., which might be a possibility, right? These are often the times where you find that these party members who might have been so hardline before really get demoralized by Washington, D.C., really get demoralized by what is happening in the internal Republican politics. And this has happened on the Democratic side, the Republican side too. We've seen some retirements this year where there's no rhyme or reason why any of these Congress people are deciding to leave, but oftentimes they cite the gridlock and the unwillingness with other parties to work with each other. That just means they really don't like being in Washington, D.C. And honestly, a lot of people can say, they agree, right? I think a lot of people will agree with them that this is not something that feels productive when the government is shut down because Mike Johnson doesn't want the Epstein files out. And when you're someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, like her or not, very publicly will stand by any belief that she has, maybe they'll change depending on, what the president of the United States is saying, but evidently not as much on every single issue. And including the ones that seem to be the most salient today, whether it's the war in Gaza, whether it's the Epstein files, whether it's domestic healthcare policy, whether it's the government shutdown that looms over the heads of millions of Americans nationwide, she does not find herself consistently aligned with her party, which is really, really interesting. And I think that we will find that will be potentially a point of contention in the future as we continue over the next months with Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress, to which she might ultimately say, I'm stepping back. Or there's another possibility here that instead of that, she's planning to just gun for something higher and buck her party on that front. And we'll see, because this doesn't seem to be the behavior of someone who stands to be in Congress for another 10 years. So wait and see. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been completely, out there opposing what her party has been doing very fascinatingly. So not to say at all that she's close to being left-wing or close to the Democratic side, but she is finding herself aligning with Democrats on some very particular yet salient issues that I think really show further cracks within the GOP that have yet to be exposed ahead of the 2026 midterms that we are starting to see with one of Donald Trump's formerly loyal foot soldiers, who now seems to be turning on the president and also the party that elected her. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, and then a playlist for my 2026 House election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.